Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take the sources you send us and, well, we really unpack the wisdom inside.
That's right.
Today, we're embarking on quite a fascinating journey, I think, into ancient monastic life. We'll be looking at a collection of early Buddhist rules.
hmm
You've asked us to explore some excerpts from the Bhikkhunīvibhaṅga Pācittiya rules. Now, this is a section of the Vinaya Pitaka outlining disciplinary guides specifically for Buddhist nuns, the bhikkhunis.
Yeah, and these Pācittiya rules, they're a specific category, not the most severe offenses like expulsion, but they did require, a formal confession and making things right with the community. Shows commitment to accountability.
Right. So our mission today is really to understand the actual incidents, the real-world events that led to these rules being set down, and what they tell us about community, conduct, maybe even wisdom that still applies today.
Exactly. These aren't just dry legal texts. They're like snapshots, little stories of everyday challenges these early communities face. They really shine a light on the practical wisdom they used to live together. Okay. We'll be diving into Pācittiya rules 21 through 30 today. Each one came from something specific that happened, often involving individuals, but impacting everyone. So yeah, let's unpack this.
Let's do it. Let's start with maybe a couple of rules that touch on personal conduct and how that affects the community's image, how people see them from the outside.
Okay, a good place to start is Rule 21. This is often called the naked bathing rule.
Right.
It happened in Savatthi near the Asarati River. You had a group of bhikkhunis bathing, completely unclothed, alongside some courtesans.
And this is where it gets really interesting, isn't it? The courtesans actually started mocking the bhikkhunis.
They did.
Saying something like, look at you young women practicing celibacy now. You should be enjoying life. Enjoy sensual pleasures. Then when you're old, practice celibacy. That way you get the best of both worlds.
Imagine hearing that. The bhikkhunis were, quite understandably, deeply ashamed by this public ridicule. And that incident directly led to the rule. A bhikkhuni who bathes naked. The Pali is anivata varutavayayati, meaning totally unclothed or uncovered well. She incurs a Pācittiya offense when she finishes bathing. The language really emphasizes the complete lack of covering.
So what's the deeper meaning here? It feels like more than just don't bathe naked. It's about dignity, public perception.
Exactly that. It's not just personal modesty, though that's part of it. It's about maintaining the dignity and, crucially, the public respect for the whole monastic order, avoiding situations that could invite scorn or misunderstanding or just ridicule like they experience. It shows how vulnerable their ideals were to outside judgment.
Protecting the Sangha's image.
Right. And like we'll see a lot today, there were exceptions, sensible ones, if your robes were lost or stolen, medical emergencies, if someone was experiencing mental distress, or of course for the very first time it happened before the rule was made official.
Okay, that makes sense. So from public spaces, let's shift inside the monastery walls. Rule 25, the unauthorized robe use rule. This one also happened in Savatthi.
Yes. So a bhikkhuni spread her wet robe out to dry in the monastery area. They went off on her alms round. Simple enough, but then another bhikkhuni just came along, saw the robe, and without asking, without a word, just took it and wore it for her own alms round.
Oh, wow, okay. I can imagine the first bhikkhuni wasn't too happy when she got back.
Not at all. She was quite upset. And this led to the rule. A bhikkhuni shouldn't wear another bhikkhuni's kavirasakamaniya, which basically means a transferable robe, one of the standard 5 types, without getting permission first, either being explicitly given it or asking.
It might sound like a small thing, borrowing a robe, but why was this such a significant issue? What's the principle?
Well, it really highlights how important respect for personal belongings is, even when you live communally. You share a lot, yes, but basic respect for what belongs to someone else is key for trust. It stops friction, resentment building up. Even in a community, consent matters.
So communal living doesn't mean zero personal property or boundaries.
Precisely. And again, the usual exceptions applied. If the owner says yes, fine. Emergencies, mental distress, the first instance. Practicality again.
It's fascinating how these rules deal with such, practical matters, not just high philosophy. Which brings us to managing resources. Rule 22, the water cloak size rule.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
So the Buddha had allowed bhikkhunis to use something called an udakasaka. It's basically a water cloak, specifically for bathing, a practical allowance.
Okay.
However, there was this group, the Chabagya bhikkhunis. They tend to pop up a bit, often pushing boundaries, and they took this allowance a bit too far.
How so?
They started making these water cloaks really, really big, excessively large. So large that the text described them dragging the cloaks puratopi, pachatopi, content both in front of them and behind them as they walked. Other bhikkhunis started complaining.
You can almost picture it sounds a bit much. What was the issue, though? Just that they look silly or something deeper?
It points towards moderation, doesn't it? Even with something permitted, there's a line. It led to a very precise regulation. The Buddha said, okay, if you make a water cloak, it has to be a standard size.
How standard?
The Pali specifies. Degaso, kataso, vidatio sugata vidatya, piriya deve vidatyo. That translates to 4 sugata spans long and 2 spans wide. A specific measurement.
Wow, really specific.
Yeah, and if a bhikkhuni made one bigger than that, it was a chedanaka Pācittiya. This means the cloak had to be physically cut down to the correct size, and she incurred the offense.
So this is about avoiding waste, excess, showing off maybe.
All of the above, I think. Moderation, practicality, not being ostentatious, sticking to the spirit of the allowance, not just the letter, and, exceptions again. Making it the right size or smaller was fine. Using oversized cloth for something else, like a canopy or pillow stuffing, okay. Illness, emergency, madness, the first time also excused.
Okay, from cloak sizes to cloak care. Rule 24, the abandoning robes rule. This one sounds a bit neglectful.
It arose from a real problem. Bhikkhunis in Savatthi were leaving their robes with other bhikkhunis, maybe for safekeeping, and then just heading off on long journeys. Traveling Santarutarena, Janapada Pakamanti, basically, far off into the countryside for extended periods.
And the robes they left behind?
They became kanakitani, moldy, damaged, ruined, and presumably a burden for whoever was supposed to be looking after them.
Right, that's not fair. So what was the rule?
Very direct. A bhikkhuni must not leave her set of robes for more than 5 days. Panyaka sagekeka atikameya is the phrase, without either wearing them, putting them on briefly, or at least airing them out.
5 days.
If she goes past the 5th day without doing one of those things, it's a Pācittiya offense.
This feels like basic responsibility, doesn't it? Looking after your things.
Absolutely. Responsibility, but also consideration for others. You can't just dump your stuff and expect the community to handle it indefinitely, especially when it might literally rot. It's about stewardship of essential items.
Makes sense. Exceptions.
Pretty logical. If she is wearing or airing them within the 5 days, she's fine. Also, illness, emergency, mental condition, the standard compassionate exemptions.
Now, as we dig into these next few rules, a particular name starts to come up repeatedly, Thullanandā. She seems to have been, shall we say, a catalyst for several rules related to community harmony and integrity.
That's a polite way of putting it.
Yeah.
Thullanandā figures quite prominently. She seems to have frequently tested the boundaries of communal conduct.
Let's look at Rule 23, the delaying robe sewing rule. Thullanandā is involved here.
She is. The story goes, another bhikkhuni had a valuable robe, but it was badly sewn. Thullanandā offered to resew it properly, but only if the owner unstitched the whole thing first.
Okay, seems helpful on the surface.
Well, the owner did her part, unstitched it, gave the fabric to Thullanandā, but then nothing. Thullanandā enya, evasibetina si bapanaya usuka karoti. She didn't sew it herself, and she made zero effort to get anyone else to sew it either. The robe just sat there, unstitched.
Oh, dear. So someone's valuable robe is now in pieces because of an empty promise.
Exactly. This led to the rule. If you unstitch a robe, or have someone else unstitch it for you, implying you'll fix it, you must sew it, or at least make a genuine effort to get it sewn, within kacapanyaha. That's 4 or 5 days, unless there's a genuine obstacle.
And if you just abandon the task,
then you immediately incur a Pācittiya offense. It's about reliability, isn't it? Following through on commitments. Your word has to mean something in a close community.
absolutely. Integrity. What about exceptions?
Genuine impediments, like maybe you couldn't find thread or someone skilled to help despite trying. Also, illness, emergency, mental state, the usual considerations.
Okay, Thullanandā again. Rule 26. Hindering group robe donations. This sounds problematic.
It was. Some of Thullananda's own lay supporters wanted to make a generous offering. Donate robes to the entire community of bhikkhunis. A big deal, a source of great merit for them.
That seems wonderful. What did Thullanandā do?
She interfered. She went to her supporters and basically talked them out of it, saying they were bahukika bahukaranjo. You know, oh, you're far too busy. You have too many responsibilities to take on such a big donation right now.
Why would she do that? Maybe trying to get the donation just for herself or her students later?
The texts don't explicitly state her motive here, but that's a plausible inference given her later actions. But the consequence was sad. Later, that family's house actually burned down,
Oh, no.
and they bitterly regretted not making the donation when they had the chance. They felt Thullananda's interference had deprived them of both Bhikkhunīvibhaṅga, their material wealth, which was lost, and the spiritual merit they would have gained.
That's powerful. So the rule.
A bhikkhuni must not hinder a communal robe donation. Specifically, she shouldn't interfere with kata imashvara the deity, how these robes might be given to the sangha.
And the offense.
Interfering with a robe donation to the community is a Pācittiya. If it was about other requisites or hindering a donation meant for just one individual, it was a lesser offense, a dukkaya. It's about not obstructing meritorious deeds or the community's benefit, respecting the donor's intention too.
Exceptions seem important here.
Yes, you can explain potential benefits, maybe suggest a better timing or method that would be more beneficial for everyone, including the donors. That's not seen as hindering. And again, madness was an exception.
It seems Thullanandā just kept going. Rule 27, hindering robe distribution. This sounds like internal community business.
It is. The Bhikkhuni community had gathered together for a formal, proper distribution of robes that they had received collectively. The Pali calls it a Dhammika Vagga, a rightful, unified distribution according to the Dhamma Vinaya.
Okay, sounds fair and square. What did Thullanandā do this time?
Well, it turned out her personal students weren't present at the gathering. So what did she do? She basically put a stop to the whole thing. She announced, Aye bhikkhunio pakanta, natava chivara pajisatiti, meaning something like, oh, the bhikkhunis, referring perhaps to her students, or using it as an excuse, have gone away, so the robes won't be distributed just yet. The community assembly broke up.
And then...
Later, when her students showed up, then she went ahead and distributed the robes.
Wow. That sounds like blatant manipulation, trying to make sure her own group got their share, or perhaps a better share?
It certainly looks that way. The rule that came from this is crystal clear. A bhikkhuni must not obstruct a proper, formally agreed-upon distribution of robes by the united community. Doing so is a Pācittiya offense.
So, upholding fairness, adhering to the agreed process, preventing individuals from gaming the system.
Exactly. It's fundamental for preventing internal conflict and corruption. Exceptions, same as before. Explaining actual benefits, though hard to see how delaying helps here, or madness.
This next one, Rule 28, giving monastic robes to lay people. This one feels particularly egregious, especially why she did it.
It really is quite something. Thullanandā actually gave away Samakivara robes meant for monastic use to lay people.
Who did she give them to?
Get this. Actors, dancers, acrobats, professional lamenters, even jugglers.
Wow, why on earth would she do that?
The text is explicit. She gave them the robes after asking them, Mahaparisati vanchava satati,
which means,
praise me in public. Essentially, go out there and tell everyone how great I am.
No.
Yes. And apparently they did. They went around lauding her, saying how learned she was, how skilled in the Dhamma. She literally traded monastic property for public praise.
That's quite a violation of principles, using sacred items for personal ego boosting.
Absolutely. So the rule is strict. You cannot give monastic robes to a Naggariko, a layperson, a male wanderer outside the Buddhist order, or a female wanderer outside the Buddhist order. Giving robes away like that is a Pācittiya.
Maintaining the distinction, the purpose of these items.
Right. Preventing misuse, especially for personal glory. It's a stark warning against the corruption of spiritual practice for ego.
Were there any exceptions to giving robes away?
A few. Very specific and compassionate ones. Giving robes to one's own parents, who are lay people, was permitted. Also, giving a robe temporarily, perhaps as a loan, was okay under certain circumstances. And of course, the exception for madness.
Okay. Moving on to Rule 29, delaying the robe season based on a weak expectation. What does that mean?
This again involves Thullanandā and donations. Her lay supporters mentioned to her that they might be able to donate robes to the community. The phrasing quoted is tentative. Satya maya sakomanta samakari samati vakabinahoti. It means, if we are able, we will give, or if we can manage it, we will do it. It was very non-committal. A maybe.
Just a possibility, not a firm promise.
Exactly. Then the official robe season arrived. This is a specific time after the rains retreat, very important for monastics receiving essential new robes. But Thullanandā told the community, essentially, hold on, don't distribute the robes yet. There's an expectation of robes coming for the Sangha based on that flimsy maybe promise.
Uh-oh. I can see where this is going.
Yep. The donors, in the end, couldn't manage it. They didn't provide the robes. And because Thullanandā had delayed things based on this weak hope, the official robe season actually passed by, without the community getting the robes they were due through the normal process. They missed out.
So the rule addresses this specific kind of wishful thinking.
It does. A bhikkhuni shouldn't delay the community's robe reception during the proper season based on what the Pali calls a dubalakivara, a weak, feeble, or uncertain expectation of robes. Doing that incurs a Pācittiya.
It's about pragmatism, isn't it? Don't hold up important community business based on vague hopes. Deal with the reality you have.
Precisely. Ensure the community's needs are met. Exceptions. Again, explaining benefits perhaps. If there was a very strong, almost certain large donation coming very soon, waiting might be justified. Or madness.
Okay, our final rule for today, Rule 30, and guess who's involved?
Let me guess.
Thullanandā.
You got it. Hindering Kathina cloth removal. What's the story here? So, a lay follower had built a new monastery. Very generous. And they wanted to donate robes to both the Bhikkhu Sangha monks and the Bhikkhunī Sangha nuns. This happened after the Kathina ceremony had been performed.
Okay, remind us what the Kathina is again.
Right. The Kathina cloth is spread after the rains retreat. It marks a special period, usually about a month, sometimes longer, where certain Vinaya rules are relaxed for the monastics, often related to travel and robe ownership. It facilitates robe making and sharing.
Got it. So the cloth had been spread.
Yes. But to allow this new large donation to happen properly after the main Kathina activities were done, the lay donor asked the Sangha to perform the Kathina Udara. This is the formal ceremony to end the Kathina period and its special allowances.
Seems like a standard procedure. What did the Thullanandā do?
She actively hindered this formal removal ceremony. She obstructed it. The text says she did it, believing chivara amhaka pavasatiri, basically, thinking if the Kathina period isn't ended, maybe those new robes the donor wants to give will end up being counted as part of the Kathina allowance, and maybe we, perhaps her group, will get them. She was trying to manipulate the situation, again, likely for personal or group gain.
Interfering with a formal monastic rite, the donor must have been upset.
Yes, the donor was displeased by this obstruction. So the rule became, a bhikkhuni must not hinder a proper, rightful removal of the Kathina cloth when performed by a united community, a dhammika kohunudra. It's a Pācittiya offense.
Respecting established procedures, not messing with communal rites for selfish reasons.
That's the core of it, protecting the integrity of these important communal observances. Exceptions, consistent to the end, explaining genuine benefits or cases of madness.
Wow. Going through these 10 rules, you really see how these seemingly quite specific regulations born from particular incidents in a specific time and place, they really do illuminate these very human, very universal challenges of living together in a community.
Absolutely. Maintaining decorum, managing resources fairly, ensuring people follow through on promises, dealing with manipulation or self-interest. These are timeless issues.
Yeah.
And these stories show the Buddha's approach wasn't just abstract ideals. It was incredibly pragmatic, responding to actual problems with clear, practical guidelines to build a society that could function ethically and harmoniously. It's amazing how small incidents shaped this whole framework.
So thinking about this for you, our listeners, what does it all mean? I think these ancient codes offer some pretty profound insights, don't they? About accountability, about respecting others, their space, their things, the huge importance of integrity, and just how much our individual actions can ripple outwards and affect everyone around us.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? What rules or maybe even unwritten norms exist in our own communities, our workplaces, our families today? Things that might seem mundane or just the way things are done, but which might actually be holding together crucial elements of trust, fairness, and smooth functioning that we barely even notice. What ancient wisdom might be hiding in our modern routines?